Most of my poems are pretty straightforward, really. What the poem seems to be about is what the poem is about. But I do have some that are a bit more metaphorical. And I've decided for today's post to collect together a few of the shorter, more metaphorical ones. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide what the metaphor is. But let's go ahead and do some. The first one is called You Are Mr. Potatohead. Rearrange the features to make another face. Fix the plastic smile firmly in its place. Choose the ears and eyes, choose the mouth and nose. Choose the shape and size and where all of it goes. And when the thing is done, join the others in the game, secure in the knowledge that they've all done the same. The next poem's an old one, and it's a very old one. It's one of the first ones that I wrote, actually. And again, it is metaphorical. And again, it's up to you to decide what the metaphor is. It's called Ghostwind. Activation. Deadwood. Driftwood. Stones upon the shore. The ghost wind blowing. Gathering daylight. Assembling the dust. Reordering the tangle. Dreaming of wakefulness. The ghost wind blowing. Motiveless motion. Dream ricochets. Windows on the morning. Vertical light. The ghost wind blowing. Deadwood. Driftwood. Stones upon the shore. The ghost wind blowing. The next poem is it's a fairly obvious metaphor, but I'll do it anyway. It's a little obvious. It's not one of my favourite poems, but who knows? Maybe you'll like it. It's called Chess. It's all just a metaphor for how we lead our lives. In the end, there is no one ever who survives. The pawns advance timidly one step at a time, and just on occasion will step out of line. The rooks are more bold and march to the fore, the soldiers you'd want when you're fighting a war. And then there are bishops, the officer breed, slip sideways from trouble, it's the way that they lead. The knights are the fellows who duck and then dive. They too fall at length, but for a time will thrive. The queens seem to have all the power that they need, but like everyone else, there's a time that they'll bleed, and that leaves the kings, the last men who stand, for everyone dies at the monarch's command. The next one's a very short one, called Mosaic. Each moment a coloured stone drawn randomly from the jar, placed carefully to the ground, insignificant viewed alone, a fragment of who you are, unremarked and unrenowned. When death comes to claim its own, in the pattern viewed afar, the portrait at last is found. The next one, again, it's a fairly obvious metaphor. I guess I'm not really all that good at metaphorical poems, but it's a fairly obvious metaphor called Castle Walls. No matter how strong the castle wall, how sturdy, thick, how solid, tall, no matter how strong the castle wall, eventually it falls. And where there once were walls of stone, the remnants have become overgrown. And where there were once walls of stone, they are overthrown. The ramparts now a fallen mass, the earth reclaims with soil and grass. The ramparts now a fallen mass whose history must pass. no matter how strong the castle wall, how sturdy, thick, how solid, tall, no matter how strong the castle wall, eventually it falls. The next one is even shorter. It's actually a Fibonacci poem, and it's actually called Metaphor. I toss sand grains, a handful, into the water. The ripples make a metaphor. And I don't have a title for the next one, actually. And I can't remember what the title was originally going to be. But let's do the poem anyway. It's another metaphor. The shadows creep in from the sharp horizon, rolling over the fields, bringing night again. They overlap the shadows of other nights, repaint them in purple. The silence rises with the graveyard mist, swallows all the bellowed sounds of life. It echoes my history's engulfing silences with a newer void. Winter's cold becomes longer, begins sooner, before autumn is dead and lasts into spring. The frost turns the panes to delicate traces of morning lace. And that's it. That's all the ones I've got in this little collection of not especially clever metaphors. I was hoping to do something a lot more complicated this weekend, but things have kind of got away from me, and I've got a lot of other things, which means that the plan I had for this weekend will probably now be pushed back to all the way to next weekend. Anyway, more later.